Before your child learns to walk, the system hands you a bill. Not for toys, not for food, just for someone to watch your child while you work. And for millions of parents in America, that bill quietly decides their career, their income, and sometimes their entire future. It usually starts with a simple question that sounds harmless on the surface. Who's going to watch the baby? That's it. Just one sentence. But for millions of parents in the United States, that question quietly changes everything. Careers, money, mental health, relationships, the future. At first, people assume they'll figure it out. They think childcare is just another expense, like groceries or gas, something they'll budget for. Something manageable? Then they start looking, and that's when reality hits. The numbers don't feel real. Weekly costs that look like monthly rent. Monthly bills that rival a mortgage. Fees that keep coming whether your child is sick, whether you're on vacation, whether your hours get cut. And suddenly, childcare isn't just care. It's a financial commitment that reshapes how people live. Imagine this. 2 parents, both working, not rich, not struggling badly either. Just trying to do what they were told would work. Go to school, get a job, start a family. Then the baby arrives. Joy, love, exhaustion. And then comes the moment no one prepares you for. You sit at the kitchen table, half asleep, doing math that doesn't make sense. One income barely covers childcare. Sometimes it doesn't even cover it fully. So you ask the question no one wants to ask. Is it even worth working? Not because someone doesn't want a career. Not because they don't value independence. But because childcare costs quietly erase the reward of working. For many families, one parent's entire paycheck disappears into daycare. Sometimes more. Which means working full-time just to afford someone else watching your child. That realization hurts. It makes people feel trapped. It makes them feel like they're losing either financially or emotionally, no matter what choice they make. If they work, they barely see their child and still struggle. If they don't work, they lose income, independence, and career momentum. There's no easy win. And this pressure doesn't show up on social media. You don't see it in baby announcement photos or smiling family posts. But it's there, sitting quietly in the background of everyday life. People start cutting corners. They choose childcare farther away. They accept longer wait lists. They rely on patchwork solutions. A neighbor here. A relative there. A day off work when something falls through. Life becomes a constant coordination puzzle. And the stress never fully turns off. Parents check their phones during meetings, worried they'll get a call saying childcare fell through. They avoid promotions because higher pay sometimes means losing childcare assistance. They turn down opportunities because stability matters more than growth. Careers stall. Not because of lack of ambition, but because childcare costs punish progress. And then there's the emotional cost. Parents feel guilt no matter what they choose. Guilt for working too much. Guilt for not contributing financially. Guilt for feeling exhausted. Guilt for feeling frustrated. They love their children deeply, yet feel overwhelmed by a system that makes raising them feel like a financial risk. And this pressure doesn't end when the child grows a little older. Infant care is expensive. Toddler care is expensive. Before school care is expensive. After school care is expensive. Summer care? Even more expensive. There's no break. Just different versions of the same problem. And every year, families hope it'll finally get easier. Sometimes it doesn't. What makes this even harder is how invisible it feels. Society treats childcare like a personal responsibility instead of shared infrastructure. If someone can't afford childcare, the question becomes, why didn't you plan better? Instead of why is this so expensive? That blame lands heavily. Parents start questioning their choices. They wonder if they waited too long, or didn't earn enough, or made the wrong career moves. But the truth is, childcare costs have risen faster than wages for years. Families didn't suddenly become irresponsible. The system just stopped working for them. And the impact goes beyond money. It affects confidence. It affects identity. It affects how people see their future. Many parents, especially mothers, step away from the workforce longer than planned. Not because they want to disappear, but because childcare makes returning feel impossible. And when they try to come back later, they're told they have gaps, that they're behind, that they missed too much. So childcare doesn't just cost money in the present. It costs opportunities in the future. It quietly reshapes entire lives. And yet, parents keep going. They wake up early. They juggle schedules. They stretch budgets. They carry stress silently because they love their kids, because they don't have another option. But love shouldn't require constant sacrifice just to survive. The cost of needing childcare isn't just what families pay every month. It's what they give up over time without realizing it. And we've only scratched the surface, because the real weight shows up later, in how this pressure changes relationships, mental health, and long-term security in ways people don't expect. And as time goes on, that pressure doesn't fade. It settles in. It becomes part of daily life, like background noise you almost get used to, even though it's exhausting. Parents start living in a constant state of calculation. Every decision passes through the same filter. Can we afford this? Will childcare still work if our hours change? What happens if someone gets sick? What happens if daycare closes for a random holiday we forgot to plan for? Because childcare is inflexible, life is. Centers close early, they close suddenly. They close for weather, staffing issues, or reasons parents don't always control. And when that happens, work doesn't pause. Employers still expect productivity. Meetings still happen, deadlines still matter. So parents scramble, they call in favors, they beg family members. They use sick days for childcare emergencies. And every time it happens, stress builds. Not dramatic stress, quiet stress. The kind that sits in your chest and never fully leaves. Parents feel like they're constantly letting someone down. Their boss, their kids, their partner, themselves. No matter what they choose, something feels neglected. And this strain shows up in relationships. Couples argue more. Not because they don't care about each other, but because exhaustion lowers patience. Money becomes a sensitive topic. Decisions feel heavier. Resentment creeps in quietly. Who stays home today? Who misses work? Who sacrifices their plans? These questions repeat week after week. And slowly roles start to form, often without discussion. One partner becomes the flexible one, the one who adjusts work, the one who takes the calls, the one whose career quietly bends to accommodate childcare needs. Over time, that bending becomes expected, and once it's expected, it's hard to reverse. That's how childcare costs create long-term inequality without ever announcing themselves. One career slows down, one income plateaus. One person carries more invisible labor. And it doesn't always feel like a choice, it feels like survival. Mental health takes a hit too. Parents feel overwhelmed but hesitate to talk about it. They're supposed to be grateful. They're supposed to be happy. They're raising a family. So when they feel stressed, anxious, or resentful, they feel guilty on top of it. They ask themselves, why am I struggling when this is what I wanted? But wanting a family and struggling under the cost of childcare can both be true at the same time. The system doesn't leave much room for honesty. Parents don't want to sound ungrateful, so they stay quiet, they smile. They say they're busy, they say they're tired. They rarely say they're drowning, and that silence makes it worse. Because when everyone pretends it's manageable, the struggle looks individual instead of structural. The financial side keeps pressing in. Childcare payments leave accounts like clockwork. There's no pause, no grace period. Missed days don't reduce the bill. Illness doesn't lower the cost. So families build their entire budget around it. Every other expense becomes flexible. Childcare is not. Savings disappear. Emergency funds shrink. Long-term planning feels impossible. Parents stop thinking years ahead. They think in months, in weeks, sometimes in days. And that short-term thinking has consequences. They delay buying homes. They delay moving closer to support. They delay changing careers. Life stays on hold until childcare ends. But when does it really end? School starts, but then there's before-school care, after-school care, summer care. School days don't match work days. School years don't match work years. So the problem changes shape, but it doesn't disappear. Families are constantly stitching together solutions, hoping nothing falls apart. And when it does fall apart, parents blame themselves. They think they should have planned better, earned more, saved more, chosen differently. But planning doesn't fix a system where costs outpace incomes and support is scarce. No amount of budgeting makes childcare affordable for everyone, and the emotional toll keeps building. Parents feel stretched thin. They feel like they're always behind. They feel like they're failing at something, even when they're doing everything they can. This pressure affects how people see themselves. They stop feeling capable. They stop feeling confident. They stop feeling like they're doing enough. And that loss of confidence spills into other areas of life. Work performance suffers. Relationships feel strained. joy feels harder to access. Not because parents don't love their kids, but because the cost of caring for them has turned love into logistics. And through all of this, society keeps moving as if this is normal, as if parents should just figure it out, as if raising the next generation isn't something that affects everyone. But it does. When parents are overwhelmed, communities feel it. When families are unstable, workplaces feel it. When childcare becomes inaccessible, the economy feels it. This isn't just a personal issue. It's a shared one. And yet most parents face it alone. There's still more to this story, because the long-term impact of childcare costs goes far beyond the early years. It shapes confidence, careers, and financial security in ways people don't fully understand until much later. As the days turn into months, the pressure starts to feel like it has a shadow that follows parents everywhere. Imagine driving to work, coffee in hand, hearing your child laugh in the back seat, and realizing that laughter is sweet but temporary because in a few hours, the daycare bill will land in your inbox like a silent alarm. It's not dramatic. No one shouts. But it presses down, quietly, relentlessly. That little shadow touches every decision. Do you take that extra shift for money? Or do you leave early to pick up the baby? Every choice carries consequences you didn't anticipate. And here's where the real struggle begins. Parents start learning the hidden cost isn't just money. It's time. It's energy. It's freedom. Sleep becomes a luxury. Weekends are fragmented. Even small moments of joy feel borrowed because something else demands attention. An email from work, a call from the daycare, a reminder that rent and childcare are due in the same week. It's the subtle trade-off that nobody talks about. The more parents try to provide, the less of themselves they get to keep. Some parents cope with humor. They tell themselves they're professional jugglers. Others cope with quiet determination, moving pieces around endlessly, sacrificing their own desires so the children get everything they need. But everyone feels it, the invisible tax of childcare that slowly eats away at ambition. You wanted to learn a new skill, start a side project, go back to school? Too expensive. Too complicated. Not worth the risk when childcare is this expensive. The dreams don't vanish, they get postponed. Year after year, and the longer the postponement, the heavier it feels. This story isn't abstract. It's the reality of millions of families across America. Two parents, both working hard, both trying to secure a better future for their kids, and yet every choice comes with a hidden cost. The cost of time, the cost of energy, the cost of peace of mind, and then comes the emotional layer, guilt. That strange, quiet guilt that creeps in when parents feel like they're failing, even though they're doing everything they can. And sometimes the emotional weight doesn't come from obvious mistakes. It comes from invisible compromises. You didn't get to attend a friend's wedding because your child's care schedule didn't allow it. You missed a work conference that could have meant a promotion because someone had to pick up the baby. You said no to a vacation because childcare cost more than the flight. It's not failure, but it feels like it. Because the system constantly reminds you that resources, time, money, energy are limited and non-negotiable. Now, imagine layering all this stress with unpredictable emergencies. A sick child, a daycare closure, a sudden fee increase. The carefully crafted schedule collapses, and suddenly you're improvising like a circus performer, trying not to drop anything. And the thing that makes it terrifying is that the system doesn't forgive mistakes. One misstep can cost hundreds of dollars or hours of work. One unexpected sick day can turn a week into chaos. The stakes feel enormous because they are enormous. Some parents eventually develop a rhythm. They become masters of logistics. They memorize calendars months in advance. They negotiate drop-off and pickup times like seasoned diplomats. They find creative hacks, splitting shifts with partners, swapping hours with neighbors, coordinating carpool chains. It looks impressive from the outside, but inside it feels relentless. There is no pause, no off switch. Life becomes a constant chain of micro-decisions where everything is a compromise. And here's the most interesting part. Amidst all this struggle, families discover resilience they never knew they had. They find joy in small victories: a morning where everyone got to work on time, a night when the baby slept through the night, a paycheck that stretched further than expected. These small wins feel monumental because the system has trained them to fight for every single advantage. But those wins are bittersweet. They're proof of strength, yes, but also proof of a system that demanded it in the first place. And over time, parents start to dream again, not the big, lofty dreams, but the practical ones. A week with no conflicts. A morning where someone else cares for the baby without the stress. A moment of quiet. Even that quiet feels luxurious. Because it's rare. Because it's earned. And that in itself becomes a small measure of freedom. The hidden cost of needing childcare isn't just financial. It's emotional, mental, and existential. It quietly shapes careers, relationships, and even self-perception. But at the same time, it produces a strange kind of superpower, the ability to navigate chaos, to multitask on an incredible scale, to prioritize under extreme constraints. The irony is that this strength comes from a system that also makes life harder than it should be. And just when parents start thinking they can manage, a new challenge arrives: long-term consequences. How does years of high childcare costs affect retirement savings? How does it affect career advancement? How does it shape the family's financial trajectory 20 years down the line? Many parents don't realize the real impact until later, when they look back and see that early choices, made under pressure, shaped decades of opportunity and security. As the years pass, the hidden cost of childcare reveals itself in ways most people don't anticipate. It isn't just money disappearing month to month. It's the ripple effect that spreads quietly across every part of life. Careers that could have soared stall. Dreams that could have been pursued are quietly postponed. Opportunities that could have lifted families financially are declined because the risk feels too high. And in each of these choices, there's a silent calculation. Can we afford this without losing stability? Even when parents think they're making the right choices, the invisible toll persists. Savings accounts remain lower than they imagined. Retirement plans are delayed. Vacations, hobbies, and personal growth are traded for the certainty that childcare will be covered this month. The cost becomes embedded in life itself, shaping every future decision. It's like swimming against a slow current. Constant effort is needed just to stay in place. Yet, amid the struggle, there's also an incredible story of resilience. Families become creative, inventive, and adaptive in ways outsiders rarely see. They develop systems to track schedules, coordinate with relatives, and negotiate flexible work hours. They master the art of multitasking, juggling career demands, childcare logistics, and household responsibilities all at once. Every day becomes a puzzle to solve, and slowly, parents learn to thrive in a system that never made thriving easy. But here's the paradox. The very strength that parents develop comes from necessity, not design. The system wasn't built to nurture families. It was built for survival. And surviving comes at a cost: physical exhaustion, emotional fatigue, and a constant sense of pressure. The worry never fully disappears. Even when children grow, the memory of sleepless nights, scrambling for coverage, and impossible financial calculations leaves its mark. It shapes confidence, relationships, and outlook for years to come. And the effect doesn't stop with the parents. Children feel it too in subtle ways. They sense stress in their caregivers, even when smiles and laughter are present. They learn early that life requires constant negotiation, careful planning, and sacrifices that aren't always fair. It shapes their understanding of stability, work, and security before they even realize it. And that influence can last decades, quietly affecting choices they make as adults. Yet even in this challenge, there is hope. Families share strategies, communities step in, and parents find support in networks they never expected. They realize they are not alone in this struggle, and that awareness itself becomes a form of empowerment. Recognizing that the hardship is structural, not personal, allows them to approach decisions with clarity and confidence. It frees them from the silent guilt that the system has imposed and allows them to focus on what matters: love, growth, and the well-being of their children. And here's the key takeaway: the cost of childcare isn't just financial. It's the unseen hours spent strategizing, the emotional bandwidth spent worrying, the long-term consequences on careers and futures, and the quiet resilience built through necessity. Understanding this cost gives families insight, communities empathy, and society the awareness to think differently about the structures that shape everyday life. If this story resonated with you, if you felt the weight of childcare costs in your own life, share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel understood, seen, and less alone. And if you know a parent navigating these challenges, share this video with them. Sometimes realizing that others face the same struggles can make the invisible burden feel just a little lighter. Because the reality is clear: childcare is more than an expense. It's a force that shapes life, an understanding that is the first step toward navigating it better together.